So you got your first teaching job from inside Nigeria.
Yes.
Welcome everyone, and in today's episode we have a very fantastic guest. She introduced herself in a moment, but you know, a lot of us just came into this diaspora and then we're trying to navigate our way, trying to find our way. And in recent times, I've been seeing the trend. A lot of people are worried, really worried as far how do we go, where do we go from here? Policies are changing, and especially because the pathway most people's mind was fixated on was coming into the country through either the health and care visa route. So the moment the health and care visa route stopped allowing people coming with dependents, so many people became frustrated. So many people became confused as to what do we do, where do we go from here. And then there's a second group of people who are not exactly interested in the health and care visa route, and are wondering what options is available to me. What can I explore? So that's why we have this guest today to share with us some of the options available to us in the diaspora, so that you don't have to be stuck in a career pathway that you have absolutely no interest in. So, welcome with me, Mrs. Janet of Diaspora Doodles. Hello, ma. Welcome, and thank you very much for being here.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me on this wonderful platform.
First things first, I want you to introduce yourself to us and then a brief background as to how you got into teaching abroad.
So, my name is Janet, and I was born in Nigeria, in Lagos, in Oshodi, and so my background is actually in healthcare, microbiology, and I was going on to be to become a pediatric doctor. But somewhere along the line, I got married. My young family moved location, and I realized that my dream to be a doctor was going to be difficult because when you move location, then you have to start getting all the accreditations and all of that. So I decided to go into my son's school to go and volunteer. Best decision of my life because it gave me the chance to understand, oh my word, can I do this for the rest of my life? Or can I do this? How do teachers cope? You get into a classroom and you see children who are not your children, so they haven't grown up with the kind of restrictions or the consequences or the kind of training that you've given them, and they're doing their own thing, and you're the teacher in the middle trying to put everything together. I mean, I wasn't the teacher, I was just the volunteer, but it gave me a chance to see what I was getting myself into, and I loved it. It's one of the things I always tell people: go in there and have a taster session. Go and see if it's something that your patients can take. And after that, I started applying for jobs outside of the country. I didn't get jobs outside of the country because I wasn't qualified to be a teacher, because teaching outside of Nigeria is totally different. You have to have a qualification. It's like being a pilot with a license. You have to have the license to teach.
Yeah.
But I was lucky to get a job in Venezuela, and they
Okay.
took me on with just my bachelor's degree, and the fact that I had volunteered a little, so they knew I had the experience. And because not many people were going to Venezuela at the time, so it was easy for me to just go there and show them that, look, I'm ready to work. I'm ready to do things here. And they employed me. They helped me get my master's degree. It was fantastic. After that, I decided to then go to the US because I was like, okay, I'm out of the country now. I'm going to the US. I went to the US. It was a totally different experience for me. They weren't treating me like they were treating me in Venezuela. They treated me like a professional. And for me, who was just entering teaching, I mean, I was still a newbie in teaching at the time. It was so difficult for me to break in. I was able to finish that year with them, but I saw that the stress was going to be continuous with my young children, so I left my teaching license in the US. I thought, I'm not doing that. Went to the UK, got my QTS, and
Yeah.
then a job came up, and it was for me to go to Oman. The salary was great. They were going to be pampering me. I like to be pampered. So I went off to Oman, and I've been touring the world since then as a teacher.
That's quite interesting, to be honest. So you got your first teaching job from inside Nigeria.
Yes.
I think it was quite interesting that you decided to volunteer. We don't see a lot of people back home uh, deciding to say, you know what, I don't have anything to do at this point. I'm going to volunteer. I think the majority of young people just have their mind, I need to get a job, for example. So not a lot of people say, look, go volunteer somewhere. It's unpaid, but you get the experience and training for free anyway. So that was brilliant. Now, when you mentioned that you moved to the UK, got a QTS, and the QTS, the job you got in the UK sent you to Oman.
No. So
Okay.
I got my QTS in the UK, and then I got a job. Now, halfway through that job, I was not happy at all. The bills were rising, so many things were happening, and I decided that, okay, I will do this job and do it to the best of my ability. But then a friend called me. She was going off to India at the time, and she said, "Why are you here? Let's go outside of the UK." And yeah, that's how I was able to. I applied for the job. I filled the application, applied for the job, did the interview. My mind wasn't really there. I was just doing it because I thought, I'm just going to try it. And it was a fantastic it was a fantastic thing that I did, because I was now going to places that they needed me. I always tell people, go to where they need you. Even if you're in the UK, go to areas where you're needed, because when you go to areas where you're needed, they will treat you
Exactly.
like a princess, and I like to be treated like a princess.
Well, that's quite interesting. So now, already, I know we're going to go into. We have quite a number of questions to look at, but because for the average viewer of this channel, they are either would be immigrants or real immigrants. Some of them have families, and some people will be wondering, okay, so did you move from Venezuela to the US, to US to UK, and the UK to Oman with your family? Are you doing all of these movements with your family or alone?
I was doing it with my family. We like to be
Wow.
together. I like to be there for every minute of their day, so that I can actually say, yes, I know when this happened and when that happened. So yes, I moved with my family.
Wow, that's quite interesting. That's quite interesting. Well done. Okay. For a lot of people who are outside of the teaching profession, my first degree is in education, teaching. Interestingly, apart from unpaid roles, um, I've never really done professional teaching. What would you say are the challenges you face as a professional teacher? Some of the most challenging things you've seen, and then maybe some of the most rewarding parts for you as a teacher in the diaspora,
Okay.
because there are two different things, yeah.
So, as a teacher in the diaspora, I'll start with the positives, because I like to focus on the positives first. So, the
Yeah,
first thing
right.
is that I'm doing a highly skilled job.
Mhm.
um, Teaching in Nigeria, I don't think Nigeria has gotten to that point yet where they see teachers as the pillars of the society. They still
Yeah,
see teachers as, it's one of those things you do if you can't do what you want to do. The way I
mhm.
entered teaching, I couldn't go into medicine, so I went into teaching. Do you see that kind of thing?
Yeah,
However, in the diaspora, you teaching is something you have to plan. You have to plan your life into teaching. You have to first
yeah,
see what area you want to go into, so sort of like your niche. You have to look at your the way you are attracted to some areas of teaching. Do you want to teach adults? Do you want to teach children? Do you want to teach business men and women? Do you just want to teach online and not have that face to face kind of that interface where you have people were in front of you teaching them? So there are different areas of teaching, and I have that ability to be fluid in my profession, not just go into
yeah,
the classroom, teach and go home, and people don't regard you and all those kind of things. People regard you as a teacher here, even
yeah,
though people see teachers as sort of a stress part of the society. People still regard teachers. You go into some places and you tell people you're a teacher, they sort of look at you again like, oh, okay, you
mhm.
know so I like that part of teaching in the diaspora. I like that there are rules that tell us what to do and how the government regulates all aspects of teaching here. An employer cannot treat you less than you are, just
Yeah.
like in other parts of the world. An employer has to follow rules here, and they have to treat you like a human being that you are, so that you can give
Yeah.
from that to children in your classroom. The
Yeah.
negative parts of teaching is the stress, the workload, the fact that if you didn't go into it prepared, you'll be shocked, and I'm sure that's why a lot of people are leaving teaching at the moment. That's why we have the shortage at the moment.
I noticed you already tried to answer the next question, which is wonderful. And the next question was going to be, after having over 20 years of teaching experience, the question will be, how has the job market changed?
First of all, teaching has changed a lot since I became a teacher. There are more,
Yeah.
the curriculum has changed. There are more rules that have been put into place. So many things have been, changed or tweaked or, made better. For
Yeah.
example, safeguarding wasn't a huge thing when I first started teaching, but now safeguarding and child protection is like the bedrock of teaching in the diaspora. The curriculum, the way that we teach maths has changed. It's different from how we learned it. It's different from how I started teaching the subject, and it's still evolving every day. Children are a little bit more aware of their rights now than when I first started teaching, and just general things like that. But it's still a noble profession, and I'm happy that I'm still in it.
So thank you very much. The question will then be, for the job market, from the job market,
Yes.
from a job seeker perspective, from an opportunity perspective, do you still see teaching? Are there still opportunity, or is an area you would say it's flooded now? We've got a lot of people there now. The opportunities are no longer there.
So the shortage in the primary section is not as it was before. Before, the shortage was all over, but now they've been able to get more people into teaching the primary age children, and I think they started this thing from about 10 years ago, where they were getting more people into teaching.
Okay.
Now the shortage is in secondary teaching, secondary
Okay.
maths, secondary science, secondary foreign languages. However, it doesn't mean that primary is full. No, there's still space in primary. However, you just need to know that it's not like it was before, when they were just desperate for teaching. Another area where there's a huge shortage now is in the early years. Many people don't
Okay.
want to do the early years. They don't want to be early years teachers because of the play-based curriculum, and because children at that age are very vulnerable. A lot of people just feel like children are too needy at that age. They'd rather teach older children who don't need that much support. You can tell them things and they can get on with it. But I started my career as an early years teacher, so I'm still an early years teacher. To all my early years
Okay.
teachers out there, they understand well what I mean.
Okay. Straight away onto the next question. Now you've shared the opportunity in the labor market. For someone who is looking to get into teaching, what kind of roles, what kind of opportunities, what kind of entry level opportunities are available? And a closely related question that I want to merge them together so that you uh, address them, speak to them, would be, what certification, what kind of trainings do they need to be able to assess some of these roles, so that, see, this kind of roles are available, this role, that role. This is the training you require for this to be able to assess some of these roles.
Okay, so the first thing I always tell people that I mentor,
Yes.
if you've never been in teaching before, just like me, if you've never entered a classroom before, in Nigeria we have the opportunity to do NYSC. I didn't teach during my NYSC. I was in a
Okay.
hospital. So for me, volunteering is the first thing. I'm not saying volunteering for a year. No, volunteer for just 10 days in a classroom. If you can cope in a classroom for 7 days with children that are not yours. You can take it in. You can see how sometimes they're loud. Sometimes you explain something over and over and over and they still don't get it. And you don't lose your patience. Then maybe teaching is for you. Because the last thing you
Wow.
want to do is go into teaching with the wrong ideas of teaching. If you think teaching here is like teaching in Nigeria, then you might need to go into the classroom for just 1 week and have a look. Now, when you've gotten into that classroom and you volunteered, um, and you like it and you were able to cope, then apply for TA jobs, because with your volunteering experience, you can prove to anybody that you're the kind of person who can do this job even when you're not being paid. What other way to show passion for something than that?
What TA jobs?
Teaching assistant jobs.
Fantastic,
So
fantastic.
you can be a teaching assistant in a university. You can be, because
Okay.
university jobs, university lecturing jobs too are really, those are in shortage. They're a shortage area as well. A shortage job
Really?
area. Yes, oh yes, colleges, university lecturing jobs, even
Okay.
people who nurse. If you're a teacher and you're teaching nurses, there's a shortage in that area as well. People want to do the nursing, people don't want to teach the nurses, so there's a shortage area. And if you go into the
Really?
NHS, yes, there's a huge, just think about teaching. And yes, you will hear shortage, left, right, and center. Just pick up maybe the NHS careers job, and you'll see how many jobs are there for people, for lecturers, to teach the health practitioners as well. So yes, it's a huge area for people to go into, and I love teaching, and I try to preach this as much as possible.
So now you said volunteer experience, teaching assistants across all the spectrums, whether it's primary, secondary, universities, and colleges, that are teaching assistant opportunities available for, especially for people who have had a volunteer experience.
Yes.
Okay,
and
okay,
then and then after that you start to look at the trainings. The good thing is, by the time you've gotten to this point of being a teaching assistant, wherever you're teaching or working, they would have trained you in childcare and safeguarding and child protection and all the basics. Now, when you get all the basics, you can then translate that into jobs. Many people
yeah,
stay with agencies because that's another way for you to get into teaching. After doing your TA job or after volunteering, you can actually go into teaching agencies and they can help you find jobs in schools. As long as you have that little volunteering, they will pick you because you have the experience. Even if you were a teacher in your home country, you don't have British experience. That's how they will see it, because they know there's a difference between teaching in your country and teaching here. If you've never
yeah,
taught before, if you have the volunteering experience, they will know, okay, this person has tried it. It's like you've had a taste and you still want to do it. So they will take you on. And when they take you on, they will then ping you to different schools. I think going through an agent is usually nice because they can throw you into different schools. The downside of it is that you don't have the time to actually consolidate on your time with people and build relationships with them. So I always advise people, once you've done your TA job and an agency has thrown you into different schools, it's now up to you to pick up the different websites where you can get jobs like gov.uk, like TES, like Teachaway, and then start applying for permanent roles yourself. Now,
yeah,
that's for people who are able to get into the job straight away. If you don't have a degree and you still want to go into teaching, maybe you're qualified as a lawyer or as a banker or as an IT person, you can still go into teaching. There are different pathways. You can either do the PGCE with QTS, or you can
mhm,
get a QTLS, or you can actually go through the level 5 diploma of getting teaching qualification, teaching and training qualification, and everything still gets you into the classroom. If people are leaving the profession, this is the time for us to take advantage and get into the profession, not just
Yeah,
for ourselves, but for posterity.
100%. That's brilliant. So you just mentioned quite a number of pathways now, and in fact, you answered even one of the other questions I had in mind, which is how people in other professions who are maybe interested in going to teaching, how they can make this switch. And that's what you don't literally just responded to. So there's the PGCE option with QTS. There's the QTLS, even though I don't know what the L means there. But yeah, there's the you mentioned another one, the diploma, level 5 diploma in education, right?
Yes.
That's interesting. So for someone, for example, who say, okay, I've heard what you're saying right now. Um, I really would like to teach in a college. Um, as from following what you've shared right now, one pathway could be volunteer somewhere, possibly even in a college if you get the opportunity. Uh,
Yes.
vol- Volunteer somewhere, then start looking out for teaching assistant roles within that community, within that environment,
Yes.
and transition from that teaching assistant role to get properly trained, either on the job or through one of the pathways you mentioned.
Yes.
It's sounding really,
Easy.
easy. Yeah, you know what I mean. When you speak to someone, they're like, yeah, and you're like, oh, isn't that straightforward?
It
So
is
there's that knowledge
straightforward.
gap. So there's that knowledge gap that for a lot of people is the reason why for them, even though they would like to explore the opportunities in teaching, they have a passion for it, they met all the other prerequisites, there's just that knowledge gap. They don't know how to close. And that's what you literally just close for us. Thank you. This is brilliant. This is
I
really
mean,
brilliant.
I always tell people, you know,
Mhm.
things that you need to do before you get into teaching. Number one, get yourself a mentor, someone who's
Okay.
already on that path, because the
Yeah.
mentor will tell you what the person did to get into teaching. The mentor will show
Yeah.
you, okay, these are different parts, because that person has gone through it. So the person is probably talking from experience. Don't ask
Yeah.
someone who's not in the profession. For instance, if I'm going to Austria now, I won't go and
Mhm.
watch videos on going to Europe. No, that's
Yeah.
Europe is too wide. I have to go and find someone who's talking about going into Austria, so I know the pluses, the minuses, and
Yeah.
everything else. So getting a
100%.
mentor into teaching is something really good. If you go on the gov.com website,
Yeah.
gov.uk, sorry,
Okay.
website, um,
Yeah.
you will see one of the things they will give you free of charge is a mentor. There's a reason why they will give you a mentor into teaching. It's one of those things that you could get frustrated if you don't have the right advice into. And
Yeah.
you have to be determined. It's easy, but if you're not determined and you don't have the right mentor, then you get frustrated and you'll give it up and leave it along the way.
Thank you very much for that insight. It becomes a perfect place to bring in the very last question. And that question then is for people who are looking to go into teaching, do you have a resource? Of course, we'll link to your WhatsApp group uh, in the just on below this video in the description. So check the description, you'll see a link to the WhatsApp group. Is there a resource or something? I know you share all of this content, really valuable content on your YouTube channel from your teaching journey. So is there something else besides subscribing to the YouTube channel that you want these people to look out for?
I mean, I'm on Instagram as well. I'm on
Oh, okay.
Telegram. I'm on TikTok. Just trying to show
Okay.
people if you look like me, it's different from everybody else, talking about teaching. Because when you look like me and you have my passport, things are really, really different because we have a lot more hurdles to jump
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, those are the places where I try to share as much. And the fact that I do my best to answer questions because not everybody has the same kind of questions. So I do one-on-one sessions
Yeah.
with people
Okay.
as well. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Fantastic. I'll link to that if you have. Okay. I also get a link. I have Instagram, so I'll equally link to your Instagram as well, so that
Thank
whoever
you.
wants to get in touch with you, they can. I mean, they can send a direct message on Instagram,
Yes.
and then you get so they get to book the one-on-one session with you. Thank you very
Okay.
much for sharing this insight with us. And
Thank you for
this
having
is just the
me.
part one. In the part two, we're talking about how to support how immigrants, especially African immigrants, can support their children with their education, taking probably cues from your years of experience and
Yes.
from what you've learned in different migrant communities. So
Yes.
thank you